Yeah, Sam, man, the streets ain't talking about you, man. If I can't spin a block and find out about you, man, the people ain't about you, man. That's just what it is, you know?
But I got to
talk about it in the streets, man.
Yeah, this one's for the streets first. Stripes like a referee shirt. This one's for the streets first. Tell mama this the rebirth. Say I need church, I talk dirty. Put my hands and my feet work. Teamwork, put in pain, but gotta bring it to the streets first, though.
It's your boy Butta, and I'm back with another episode of that Streets First Podcast. Y'all already know how your boy do. I brings them out. I'm moving around. I'm doing something different. I'm bringing financial literacy in a whole different way, and I'm tapping in black businesses, dispensaries, etc. But here today, I had to pull up on my guy, Coss Marte, all right, of CONBUD. You know what I'm saying? CONBUD. He's doing a lot of good different things down here on 85 Delancey Street, downtown New York City. And I'm here to talk to him to educate y'all on some things that maybe y'all don't know, but you need to know. Guys, first thing first, man, the journey.
Yeah.
The journey. Can you give us a little bit of your journey and kind of like what you've been through to like even be here now today where you are?
It's been a crazy journey, you know, because I was 3 blocks away on a milk crate 24 hours a day, you know, selling weed, selling whatever you asked me for on that corner. You know, I said, I'll be back, you know, and I was there coming back and forth. And now I'm on like Main Street, you know, like this is where I grew up getting like my socks, my underwears, and like that, you know, and Jimmy Jazz used to be across the street, Foot Locker used to be across the street, you know, and so for me to be here, it's like, you know, unbelievable, you know, because I saw a lot of drugs. I saw a lot of violence. I saw a lot of street, you know, growing up, and it was normal, you know, to see that. And then when the neighborhood started really getting gentrified in the early 2000s, it was like a whole flip. And now, like, when I was selling $20 bags, now I'm selling $50, $100 bags to the white people instead of my people, you know? And it became a different, you know, flip. And I took advantage of that wave that happened, you know, in that time, and that service blew up. And then that service got me locked up.
It's always part of the story.
Yeah, and so in and out of jail since 13. I got arrested about a dozen times, you know, and it was mostly every time for weed.
Wow.
You know, it was like always got caught with some type of weed on me, and then I'm getting caught with something else, and then something else. And it was like, damn, and now to have this opportunity to do this legally, you know, is crazy.
To piggyback off of, you know, constantly, you know, having marijuana on a record, what was the process like, you know, for you as, you know, they claimed or called former convict to be able to turn your life around and be able to get into this space?
Well, I mean, to get into the space at that time, you had to have a former net profitable business for at least 2 years.
Okay.
You know, net profit means that you have to turn over a profit on a business, and then also have the conviction on your record, not just an arrest. So there were a lot of people that were arrested with it, you know, but the actual time or got even community service with it, you know. Because I done community service, I have bench warrants, I got probation violations for weed, I got caught in the box, I got in the box for weed, you know, like I've been, like, I never stopped really smoking weed except for when I was on parole, when I came out on this last bid.
Okay.
You know, and I said, I do not want to go back into the system no matter what I have to do, you know, and I was gonna follow the rules and do it right. And it was a long journey. You know, and the journey still hasn't, you know, finished because we here.
Well, explain to me, or to the listeners, really, the vision of CONBUD. Like, what was your vision of what you wanted to create with CONBUD?
So I really wanted to do something like crazy. I really wanted to like go inside the prison system and grow weed and maybe have the inmates get paid a proper minimum wage so we could bring weed. You know, that was like my big idea, you know, before like it only got sectored into like, hey, you only could get a retail license, you only could get a growing license. I'm not the best grower. I grow back in the day and I grow a little here and there, but I'm not a person that's gonna manage 1,000 plants, you know.
Okay.
I'm a person that's gonna sell 1,000 dimes on the block, you know, like that's the person that I grew up being, you know.
Okay.
And so that opportunity came, and I have a retail license. So the retail license allows me to, you know, hire the whoever I want, you know, and the people that I wanted to hire were the people that were affected by this, you know, or had family members affected by this, you know, or affected by the system. Because some of my teams, like, they've gone down for bodies or assaults. Like, it's not just, hey, I'm only hiring people that's drug offenders. Like, I don't believe in that shit, you know, because the system, you know, puts this notion of, hey, I hit you, now it's assault. And when you hear and somebody you hire and you say like, yo, this person went down for assault in a second, like that shit sounds like, yo, you hit somebody with a hammer until they bled to death type of shit.
That
You know,
does sound like that.
But that's the discrimination that most employers have, you know, and that's the lack of education that they have. You know, that anything could be an assault. An assault could be me grabbing a remote control and throwing it at your head, and you bust your head open. And because I was locked up with people like that.
Okay.
You know,
I get it.
I was locked up with a dude that got into a fight with his sister over a remote control, and he beat her up, and the families called the cops. Now he's in there for assault. You know,
when you speak on like the importance of like the community and what CONBUD is, like how do you go about, you know, your presence in the community? Like what are like the things that you do, knowing that you're here where you grew up at? Like how do you impact the community now through CONBUD?
Yeah, well, we've been able to do like 2,500 turkeys drives here. We gave out 2,000 book bags out here. We gave out 2,000 toys, you know, to everybody in the projects. You know, like we've been able to use our profits and our money to give back to the community. Like when we have fair events on the block, we did a Halloween activation. You know, for the whole block. You know, there's not businesses doing that shit. You know, there's nobody doing that.
You ain't lying.
And so, like, now that I have some type of power, you know, money that gives me the power to do whatever the fuck I want to do with that money, you know? And so what I wish to do is to get back to the people that has been missing in this, you know, and show them that we have a different notion, you know, that we could do this, we could rewrite the script from the bottom up. You know?
Before I get into, you know, financial literacy in a different way, can you explain to the viewers, you also have CONBUD. Can you explain a little bit more what CONBUD is?
Yeah, so CONBUD also hires people. That was my original business.
Okay.
You know, when I came out of prison, I wanted to, after losing a whole bunch of weight while I was locked up, I was already helping inmates lose weight, work out. It was just a camaraderie builder while I was inside. And then while I was in the box is where I came up with the idea of like doing CONBUD and starting like a prison style boot camp. So it was a fitness studio where we trained like how we were inside, but using no equipment, all body weight, calisthenics, cardio. And we hired people coming out of the system to teach that. And so today, you know, why I wanted to go inside and that dream of like growing and all that stuff is because today we go into Rikers Island every day. We go into the juvenile facilities every day. Like our team, that's what we're doing right now. And we training people how to become trainers. And then, we work out with them in there. And so when they come out, they already have, you know, hey, you want an internship? Yo, sign up here. We got 6-week internship. You can start, you know, not doing much, learning what the whole system is, the policies and all that stuff. And then we could have an opportunity for you to onboard, you know, full time.
So not only have you turned, like, this is what I would say, you turned your negatives into positives, but then you started a business to where you can reach out to other brothers through the whole camaraderie
And
thing
sisters.
and trying to like help train them in that same way. And that's where this financial literacy part comes in for me, because I don't think that, you know, the information and helping educate our brothers or the next generation is not really being spread so much. So with that being said, I know that, you know, you being in the weed industry, you understand like pros and cons. Can you speak a little bit on, like, let's say for instance, sprayed weed? You know, I hear a lot about weed being sprayed, you know what I mean? I don't really want to get into too much of the sativa versus the hybrid. I'm talking about the things that can cause negative effects. Can you speak a little bit more on that?
Even like the grabba that people are buying, like, you know, I had a friend of mine that had alien guava from 125th.
Okay, talk to me now.
He tested that and it was fentanyl in it, you know? And so like, and it was like, because probably the person that's bagging that up is not cleaning their scale after, and they doing this shit at home. And they just scooping it up and doing it like nothing, you know what I mean? But we don't know that, you know? We don't know where the what's in it, the pesticides. If you look at our packaging, I'm gonna show you, like, you know, everything has to have this, and this could be copied, right?
Okay.
But on the bigger box, when you see the packaging, let me see if this has it. You know, this has a QR code, you know? So this is the COAs. This is where you'll see all the lab tests, all the pesticides or whatever it has, or whatever levels it has, so it won't, you know, because there is stuff, you know, we can't avoid organic stuff that's being, you know, touched by the world, you know, and so it'll tell you exactly what it is, but it's not gonna get you sick like the sprayed stuff. So when people see all this shit where like, yo, look at all these crystals, this looks beautiful, you know, it's crazy. It's sometimes most likely that thing is sprayed, you know, and it's spray terps, and it's a lot of the products that people smoked in the smoke shop stuff. That was all coming from expired product from Cali.
Wow.
So all that expired product is all the products expire after pretty much 12 months. You know, when they come into the market. You know, unless it's like food and perishables that could die out faster. After 6 months of that being on the shelf life, the THC levels start disseminating. So in 12 months, if they don't sell that product, which a lot of California dispensaries didn't get, they have to put that in, dispose of it, right? And what do? They're not gonna lose money on that. Y'all throw that thing in the back, you know, dispose of it. That thing come right over here. Now you got pounds and pounds of it here. And yo, this thing doesn't smell too much. You know, let's package that up with the same gumbo copy Tyson package. You know, all these smoke shops had Tyson packaging. Like, Tyson didn't go to the store. Tyson came over here because, you know, this shit was the one that he chose.
Exactly.
You know? So
exactly.
But that's the problem that everybody doesn't know. And so when I stop people on the street, like I literally stopped maybe a week ago, like a group of people that was just in the bench over there, a couple blocks away, and I told them like, yo, what y'all smoking? Smoke some of this. And I was telling them about our store. And they're like, nah, I heard, you know, that thing is fake weed. And I'm like, oh my God. You know? I was like, what did I just hand you? You know, I said, smoke that, let me know what you think, you know? And so that's the problem, is that people that even got into the industry now, you know, because a lot of people got in after it got legalized.
Okay.
You know, we've been legalized for it's going on 4 years almost, since 2021 March, and we're in 25.
Wow.
You know, and so there's a lot of newcomers, a lot of high school kids that are just graduating, that getting into it. They used to the smoke shop weed, you know, and so when they see that and they smoke real weed, they're like, nah, we want that, because they're already addicted to that. You know,
that's like the next thing that I really wanted to ask. Like, beyond profits, like how do you educate and be able to help the next generation, see through what, you kind of like are, as I would say, as I've been listening to you, you're kind of like an expertise in this. Like,
Yeah.
how do you help them with deciphering
I
these type of choices?
I think deciphering, man. I just,
I mean, people gonna make their own
they're
choices, but
gonna
until
make,
they hear,
yeah,
someone that at least is in it or behind the scenes that has a little bit more information
yeah,
on it, what advice would you be able to give, like, to them when it comes to, you're not gonna help. I'm not saying it in a way
yeah,
where
yeah.
you're
No,
gonna
but
get them
it's,
off the addiction, but what good advice would you explain to them about the pros of a dispensary versus where
you
they can
know,
get that at just off the street?
I just say health is like number one, because
That's
if we're not moving, we're not living, and so when you see a lot of stuff that people do or they did when they were younger, a lot of the people that we saw on the street that were like sniffing and doing all this shit, and then you see them now, in a wheelchair, washed up, and they can't move. Do I want to be that person? I'm not saying you sniffing, but you just don't know what you're putting in your
I get what you're
in
saying
your
when you say
body,
that.
and so we consistently putting stuff in our bodies that we don't know. And what's the long-term effects? We'll see. They thought, what they were doing 20, 30 years ago on the street was okay, and now they, messed up, and a lot of our family members, cancers and all this. Why? Why?
when you
So
when you look back, if you don't mind, you've now expanded to the Bronx. You now also have another
yeah,
dispensary in the Bronx, right
yeah,
across from Yankee Stadium
yeah.
on Girard. Looking back just on your journey, how do you feel about where you're going with operating these businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I want to try to. It's hard because I came into this business to like just do the right thing and try to grow this thing as much as possible to give my people the opportunity to get in.
Okay.
And so it's difficult to manage because a lot of people don't understand what's happening behind the scenes. What's happening with, these medical operators that are taking advantage of, the people like us, or what their spreadsheets look like, behind the scenes, and their graphs look like, with us being in that plan. You know what I mean?
Wow, I get that.
And so, like, how do they box us out? How do they get us out? And I'm battling those people, and it's difficult, because you got to be in the weeds. You got to listen to everything that's going on in the industry, and and there's a lot of, I don't know. It's just a lot of rumors, a lot of crazy shit. It's
I'll help you though. Look,
It's-
so
it's
so
crazy.
so look, watch this, Coss. If there was one thing that you could change about the cannabis industry, what would it be for you?
I just say like righteousness,
Okay.
a righteousness, and it's not even on the cannabis industry. It's like, across the board for just being a human being. I think one thing that we only have to do in this world is just be righteous, and everything's gonna be provided for us. Like I came home to sleep on my mom's couch, and started from the bottom, but I just kept that righteous path, and I didn't know whatever I was gonna do was gonna work, but I was gonna aim for it to work, And when I thought it was gonna be all blown up, something happened because I just kept trusting the process, and that's my advice,
Kind of like we're getting towards the end, but kind of like for people like your guy, my man Snells, you know what I mean? Like what is your give back to like your team members like that? Like how did you see yourself playing a part in his process of just rehabilitating and being able to,
Yeah, I mean,
figure it out. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Knowing the steps and things that we all came from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, Snails, came and I just met him through a mutual friend. And it was like, yo, we hit it off. There was an opportunity there. Let's do it,
Okay.
And I've been with Snails, been in and out of working with me for like 8 years now,
Wow.
since he's been home.
Wow.
And it's been a journey that I learned from him. I think I've learned a lot from him. Maybe he's learning a lot of other shit from me, but he navigates different avenues that I never navigated, and I also want to surround myself with like a lot of people that know more shit than me, because I can't do it all, and then also that just gives me a different perspective too.
View, you know what I mean? Like if there's one thing that I could leave the viewers with, what could they kind of like be expecting or should be looking forward to? Now you don't have to give them too much. I already brought up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course from Yankee Stadium, but just give them a little bit of where CONBUD system is going.
Yeah, I'm trying to grow like a huge delivery service around the city, so you could go right up to our website. You could order anytime. We turn 11 to 11, and we're trying to service the whole city, and then try to push through the whole state. I think this is where a lot of people are not really tapping into, or don't know how to really tap into. Because there's a lot of barriers, like financial stuff, because we can't accept credit cards like that, so we have to skirt around different avenues, so it's crazy, but we're figuring it out. And this is where I want to like really blow up, and obviously like our stores are going to be a big push, but I think the delivery is where we could really scale.
If you don't mind me asking, what are like kind of like top selling in dispensaries? You got the smoking from the wheat, the flour as usual. You have the oils. You have, now I'm seeing they have pills.
Yep.
So there's a lot of healthy ways, you know what I mean, in the dispensary store.
Yeah, you don't gotta smoke.
Okay.
You don't gotta smoke to get high. There's even like little cans that we sell, that are $5 that you could just drink, and it's 10 milligrams. That shit'll start hitting within like 10 minutes because it's nano infused.
Wow.
But we got like tinctures, we got RSO, like the Rick Simpson oil that you could just put like right on your skin and put in your tongue, and that's just gonna hit you, stuff like that is gonna be, that you're not gonna find from a smoke shop.
I got you.
We got many ways to consume. We got that old school hash, that tabla, I don't know, from back in the day.
I've heard of that.
That Dykeman and Post, we had to burn that shit under aluminum foil and then peel it open, and it's, and you put that in your beef and broccoli type of.
Little history lesson for y'all right there.
That was
real smoker right there. Real smoker. But before we let you go, Coss, if you don't mind, man, just letting the listeners, the viewers know, where they can find you, where they can find everything that you're doing, websites, everything. Like, I want the streets, I want our people to have an awareness of what you're doing, who you are, because I watch people from afar, and the dots that I see that you're connecting and the things that I see that you're about, I really feel that people need to spotlight that a little bit more. You know what I mean? Because it is people like you that is making a difference, not just in the weed, the dispensary game, but in other people's lives. You're doing things that is making a big impact on help shifting other people's lives, especially coming from being incarcerated. I've hear a lot of stories that people don't never really let go for years that they never can get back. But to see someone like you be able to change your life and be an inspiration versus always our stories being victims and never really getting over that hump. I want to give that back to the next generation. So I appreciate you taking the time out,
I
but
appreciate
please
you.
let them know all of those sites, man.
Yeah, if you could catch us at CONBUD, that's CONBUD.com. You'll see all our 600 plus SKUs of any way, shape, and form you want to consume cannabis. And you could check out right there, and we deliver, anywhere pretty much around the city.
You already know it's your boy Butta, Streets First. I'm back outside, baby. Stay tuned.
Yeah, this one's for the streets first. Stripes like a referee shirt. This one's for the streets first. Tell mama this the rebirth. I need church. I talk dirty.